Hello and welcome to episode 407 of the No Sugarcoating podcast. I'm your host, Amber Romaniuk. How are you? How's your day going? How's your week? I can't believe it's April. Happy April. Happy Easter to those of you who celebrate or whatever it is that you celebrate. We're having a pretty chill weekend this weekend, not really doing a whole lot. I'm making, I call it gnocchi. We call it gnocchi, but it's gnocchi, I know. Which is like a potato and rice, little pillowy kind of pastas. It's so good. It's gluten-free. I really like it. And I make this pesto gnocchi with chicken and peppers and onions and all kinds of good stuff. And then I'm going to make a carrot cake for dessert. So that'll be our Easter, the Easter vibe. I love carrot cake. Do you love carrot cake? Let me know in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. Anyways, this week's episode was really inspired by some conversations I've been having with clients and potential clients, and something that I just feel like so many of you may have or may be struggling with currently, which is around the patterns, why the patterns of emotional eating continue, emotional eating, binging and purging, why the patterns of unworthiness and the weigh-ins and the obsession with the scale continue, the negative self-talk. Why do these patterns continue? I'm going to talk about that today. And I'm going to talk about specifically how these habits and pathways keep you stuck, and why really, to me, the key here is being willing to open up to the longer term commitment of your healing, regardless of the path that you decide to take, that you're willing to open up to this path that is a more long-term journey. Because one of the reasons that we stay stuck is because we're continuing to go in the direction of quick fixes. And as we know, as you hear me talk about all the time, the quick fixes don't work. And then we stay stuck. And then, of course, nothing really changes. So I'm going to dive into that right away. Of course, the announcements and details for today's episode are available in the show notes at amberapproved.ca/podcast/407 or below in the description. Something that I wanted to share, I'm going to start sharing a little bit more like celebrations and acknowledgements from clients, because there's just so much magic and miracles that go on in the sessions and go on that like you don't see or hear about. And it's hard to like show it because I'm not sitting there doing like before and after photos. Like it's the expression and what is shared with me and the healing that's happening for my clients. But I have a beautiful client. She came in for like a 1-month intro package, which is available if you want to start with something small. And we had her first session, did her health assessment, went through hormone test results, got into supporting her hormones, right? Really starting to work on catching more of the binge eating triggers, bringing in more mindful eating practices, working more on the mindset. And we had her second session yesterday, right? A month after the first one. And we have Voxer where she can connect with me in between. And we had her session yesterday and she said to me, I don't think I've ever felt this good. She's like, I've never felt this good. And we're literally just getting started. So we're going through her symptoms, right? Her energy levels are way up. Her bloating and gut discomfort are almost fully gone. Her inflammation is down. She's saying her clothes are fitting better. Mental clarity is better. She went from binge eating multiple days a week to only 3 mild overeating episodes in the entire month, and is now aware that there's like a lack mentality and pathways with watching TV associated with eating that she's breaking apart, which is like, to make that kind of change in a month is just like jaw dropping to me. So we're going to continue. She renewed. She's like, I want to renew because I love the momentum I'm building. And she was aware that in the past, when she started to feel better, she would not continue doing whatever she was doing. And then she'd hit a block and then everything would just come back and she'd continue to struggle. And so she said, this time I want to break that pattern and I want to continue this. I want this to become my foundation. I want this to be who I really am all the time. And so she renewed so that we could continue the momentum and continue working on the things we've been working on. So just so powerful. And this is one of the reasons I made this episode today, is because I want to talk about the patterns and the pathways and why it's going to take time to make the change and why sticking with it is honestly your best bet. So I'm curious, do you find yourself backsliding, after you gain a bit of progress on your healing journey? Do you find it's, hard to stick to the diet, the meal plan, the exercise, weight loss plan, for more than a month or two, because then you're failing and falling the other way and overeating or rebelling with food? Do you feel like you can't get past 1 to 3 months of progression with whatever you're trying to heal and work on, and then your symptoms just keep coming back worse, you keep gaining the weight back, the emotional eating triggers keep coming back. Is this you? Does this sound like you? Because if you're answering yes, this is honestly a great reason to reach out and explore a program together, whether it's an intro 1 month to get a taste, or you want to go full blown into a 4, 6, or 12-month journey. Because what we get to explore is dismantling these old patterns, right? Supporting your hormone health and getting clarity of what's imbalances are going on there and with your gut issues. Reduce your cravings, work on fully overcoming the emotional eating and binge eating triggers, work on that ego mindset, that negative thoughts, the limiting beliefs, right? And so many other things. So you can go to amberapproved.ca and schedule a body freedom consultation. You can also click the link in the show notes and it'll take you over to do so. And we can connect and talk about going on the journey together. Remember, this is a safe space. The journey is taken at your pace. If you haven't listened to last week's episode 406, talking about how I navigate food with my clients, take a listen to that. It's really insightful and helpful. And I know I've gotten some great feedback from you guys. So go and check that out. But it's really, this journey is to set you up to build a solid foundation so you make lifetime changes, have lifetime habits, and are free of these behaviors and these symptoms, right? And you get to leave it behind you. And it's just so potent and powerful, the miracles that occur. So you can email me info@amberapproved.ca if you want details, or you can go right to amberapproved.ca and click the link to schedule a consultation. And I can't wait to connect with you. This is life-changing work. And last but not least, all the masterclasses, the food prep magic programs. There's so many self-study programs that you can dive into now. If you go to amberapproved.ca/online-programs, and you can do a little shopping if you're wanting to start with something small, all kinds of stuff there. And the link is in the show notes and as well is below in the description if you're watching on YouTube. So let's dive into today's episode. Why the patterns of emotional eating continue. And this could go across board for you. It could be why the pattern of like having this grasp on needing to weigh in every day to feel good is continuing. Why you can't seem to detach from the meal plans, the calorie counting, the apps. Why the pattern of binge eating is continuing. Why the pattern of negative self-talk and the need to lose weight to be happy continues. Why the patterns of right, like overbooking your schedule and people pleasing are continuing, and then your symptoms are continuing because you're not taking care of yourself. So we can really use this, but I wanted to, of course, use emotional eating, any kind of self-sabotage with food as the theme, because I know a lot of you listening are going through that. So one of the biggest reasons why this pattern continues is because we're not aware that there is even really a pattern of self-sabotage. We're not aware of our sabotaging behaviors. Maybe you're aware that you emotionally eat, but you're not specifically aware of each individual trigger that triggers you. You're not aware of how ingrained the habit is, how ingrained the pattern is. You're not aware of how deep-seated your people-pleasing issues are. You're not aware of how deep-rooted the all-or-nothing perfection mentality is, and how much that burns you out and overwhelms you. And the more burnt out and overwhelmed you are, guess what? The more easy it is to want to chase food to get a dopamine hit and numb out and distract, right? The patterns continue because we lack awareness with what triggers them. Like I said, whether it's emotional eating, people pleasing, body image triggers, the weight obsession. Now I need to, I've gained weight. Now I need to fix it with a diet. So I'm going to hop back on a diet again, another quick fix. I'm going to do a whole episode on Ozempic. It's technically for diabetics, for blood sugar, but of course the media and celebrities and people are like blowing it up like it's this miracle weight loss drug when it's not, and it's causing a lot of issues and it's another quick fix. But as long as we keep going down the pathway of the quick fixes, we keep amplifying and enabling our patterns of self-sabotage to continue, because as we know, the quick fixes are just a band-aid and suppress and temporarily like numb or distract us from really looking at what's really going on. And then I find once we stop the quick fix, whatever it is, usually whatever was going on prior to comes back tenfold. So some examples are like you go on keto, or I've had women tell me about their experiences with this Ozempic and they're coming off of it and then they have no appetite while they're on it because this suppresses your appetite, which is a big no-no. And then they stop it and then they're like so hungry and they're losing control and binge eating like crazy and gaining weight like crazy. And it's messing with their thyroids and their metabolism. So there's this boomerang that occurs. You do keto and then you can't stick with it anymore. And as soon as you start adding carbohydrates back in, you feel like your cravings come back, or your bloating comes back, or you gain weight really easily because it's the suppression or the restriction messed with your thyroid and your metabolism. Right? Like you go into the all-in perfection with food, and then you're falling off way the other way, and you're binging and losing control or rebelling and emotionally eating. So part of the reason that we continue in the patterns is because we're not aware of the root causes, or we're not willing to look at the root causes. We want to avoid doing the deeper, more transformative work that's life-changing. We don't want to get uncomfortable. We are convinced, the ego convinces us that it's just you didn't try hard enough. You need to try harder and have more willpower. And you know me, I'm always saying it's got nothing to do with either of those things. And it's so much more. The emotional eating, the patterns of emotional eating, or whatever it is that you're struggling with, continue because, well, there's a few scenarios. Number one, maybe you're not ready to look at it. And so it's continuing because there's an avoidance, or there's this fear of dealing with it. Who will I be if I deal with this? What's my identity going to look like if I'm not using food as a coping mechanism anymore? Right? How will my life change? I don't know if I'm ready for that, even though it's all positive things. Maybe you're like, oh my gosh, like I can't imagine not people pleasing. I don't want to let anyone down. And so your fear of being judged, or fear of that someone's going to get upset with you, holds you back, right? Maybe you're just so in the comfort zone of continuing to use the diets, the macro counting, the apps, the quick fixes, that even though you deeply desire to heal and overcome and gain freedom from your self-sabotage with food or whatever it is, there is fear. And as you always hear me say, fear in these cases is false evidence appearing real. It's your ego going, oh yeah, create this big scary story why actually doing your deeper work isn't a good idea, when it's the best idea. But let's scare her and give her all these stories as to why it's not a good idea. And then she won't do anything. And then she'll just stay stuck in these patterns and be upset and miserable and disappointed and hard on herself. And we don't want that. We don't want you to be stuck in that. You deserve to heal. You deserve to overcome this. So that's why I'm here to help break this stuff down, to help you see what's really going on. Another reason why the patterns of self-sabotage continue is because we are so busy. We are so focused on whether it's your work, your job, your career, your business, your family, your friends, your social life, the world, and everything going on. But you're so caught up with external life that you literally haven't even considered giving time to yourself to look at it. Or maybe you have, and again, you don't want to deal with it and it feels uncomfortable and you're avoiding by staying busy, right? Some people say, I don't want to look at it. I'm afraid of what might happen when I open up Pandora's box, but only good things happen. You heal, you gain freedom, you feel more happy, you feel more peace. There's so much peace of mind. It is priceless to have peace of mind and not think about food all day like I used to. Holy crap. I used to think about food 24/7, whether it was like the diet, the restriction, the obsession around what I was going to binge on, and everything in between. It feels incredible to not have all that space in my brain be occupied by thinking about food or the scale or what I weigh right now, and that I should be upset because it didn't go down today. Like having all that gone feels incredible. And that's what I want for you. I want you to feel that peace of mind too. And we must be willing to look at like, okay, well, let me figure out why these patterns are continuing. Why are they continuing? Right. So like I said earlier, like if you're in a place where you feel like you gain some traction for a couple of months, but then you keep falling back into old habits, right? You can, you move forward with certain eating style or diet, and then you're failing with it and going back to binge eating. You lose some weight, but then something triggers you emotionally and then you start eating again, right? There's stuff to look at here. Another reason the pattern of emotional eating continues is because you likely haven't addressed the void, the lack of self-love that's there, the unworthiness that you're feeling. And so what do? We try to fill that void with food, or you try to fill the void with people pleasing or getting validation from others. There's other things you may be trying to fill the void with: alcohol, shopping, right? There's all kinds of things. But there's a void there, and there is a opportunity for you to be willing to go in and learn how to build that worthiness and fill that void. And you're going, oh my God, how do I do that? Well, honestly, getting support is a great path to take, because then you're supported every step of the way, and you have accountability in a loving way, and you have someone to pick you up and dust you off when you fail, and you learn that failure is a great learning opportunity. And you have someone to cheer you on and encourage you and help challenge your ego when it comes up and it's really strong, and give you tools to help navigate the emotional eating triggers and the self-sabotaging patterns and the lack of boundaries and, whatever is coming up for you that's keeping you stuck in these patterns. Another reason that we stay in these patterns of emotional eating is because the more you repeat a pattern, the easier it is to wire an actual neural pathway or pattern in your brain, so that when you sit down, say it's like the emotional eating and watching TV trigger. So when you turn on the TV, you associate that with food, and then you find it difficult to stop eating while you watch TV in the evening, because you've literally wired a pathway in your brain that lights up when you sit down and watch TV. One of my old associations used to be Sunday nights. Oh gosh, it's Sunday night. I'm stressed out. I don't want to go to my crappy job tomorrow. Oh, I'm going to just numb out. So I would associate Sunday nights with like stress, and I'm going to emotionally eat. And it took a while to break that pattern. And then I started watching certain movies and associating certain movies with certain foods. And then for a while, it felt like if I watched that movie, I would get triggered to emotionally eat, because there's all these pathways in my brain lighting up. Maybe for you, it's like your lunchtime is your association with self-sabotage with food. So the more you repeat the pattern, whether it's a good pattern or not, the easier it is to wire the pathway in the brain. And that's why it can feel difficult to stop this pattern of self-sabotage with food. So let's talk a little bit more about these pathways and these habits that are keeping you stuck. So every time I have a conversation with, a potential client, they're always saying to me like, I have knowledge, I know how I should be eating, I know what I need to do, but I just can't seem to stick to it. I've tried these diets, I've done these plans, like this worked for me for a while, maybe I just need to try that again and try harder. And I just always say, like, with all due respect, if you really check in with your heart of hearts, truly, if you really check in with your heart of hearts, is that what you really need? Is it really another diet or to try harder? Or is it actually that, yes, you've tried all the fads and the quick fixes and the diets and the, right? Maybe for some of you, you've tried like certain medications or surgeries or things to suppress your appetite levels and try to lose weight. But as I've even chatted with women who've had their stomach stapled and they've had surgeries and they've taken certain medications, the behavior doesn't stop. Maybe it's paused temporarily, but then it comes back, because none of that actually helps you fully deal with the unworthiness or the self-loathing, or identify your triggers or deal with your ego. And these are the things that must be addressed. And it's unfortunate because you spend a lot of money on these medications and these prescriptions and these surgeries, and then you get really hard on yourself when nothing changes. And it's because these are all band-aids. They're quick fixes. They don't work. And I, of course, come from a place of love. You're going to choose to do what you want to do. But I've had clients and I've had so many conversations with women that have been in this position, and then they're upset because nothing has changed. And it's because there is another path to really consider looking at, and really looking at these habits and pathways, and that continuing to take the same approaches with the same quick fixes gives you the same result. And it drives a person nuts. It honestly does. It's very draining. And it's very emotional to continue to spin your wheels with this and just feel like you're digging yourself into a rut. And I know I was there, right? I tried so many different diets, so many different eating styles, so many different plans, trying to follow a meal plan, trying to hire a personal trainer, trying to follow elimination diets and stick to certain things with like, my blood tests, and like none of it worked. And none of it worked because none of it was addressing the roots of these patterns and these habits that, had really dug me deep into self-sabotage. However, once I started to become aware of the patterns that were continuing to amplify the self-sabotage with food and the pathways, then I was able to start understanding that more and start making changes with it. So let's talk about some of the habits and pathways that keep you stuck. So I've kind of addressed this, but with anything with repetition. So the more you repeat a pattern, the more you wire a pathway in your brain. And then the more often that pathway lights up and goes, it's time for you to emotionally eat. You feel these emotions. You're watching TV. You're doing this activity. You eat while you do this. And so that can really make us feel stuck because it keeps triggering the self-sabotage. And even if you don't want to self-sabotage, it's honestly really hard not to when you literally have this pattern lighting up in your brain going, it's time for you to do this. It's time for you to do this. It's time for you to do this. Right? It's great if it's a good habit, like waking up in the morning and doing self-care, or right, like going for a nice walk outside, or gratitudes, or something uplifting, right? That's going to benefit you. But when it's something that's like hurting you, we don't want to have that pattern in the brain. But what we need to understand is it's the repetition over years, months, years, decades that's created the pattern. And it is going to take time to dismantle it and unravel it and bring in the new pathway, the new pattern that better serves you. And that's where getting support can be so helpful, because what fuels these, what fuels you to keep repeating these patterns and habits and making these pathways, a big part of it is your ego. Your ego is one of the biggest reasons you are stuck in self-sabotage with food, people pleasing, all or nothing, perfection, the weight obsession, right? Chasing certain numbers, etc. It is the ego, because the ego has convinced you that this is the only way you're going to be good enough, worthy, lovable. Your ego has convinced you that this is the only path that matters. Oh, you're going to finally lose the weight this year. And when you finally lose the weight this year, like, your life is finally going to be amazing. You can finally be happy and everything's going to be perfect. And you're finally going to have everything you want. This is the year. Just stick to the diet, have more willpower. Like, this is the thing, right? The ego convinces you that nothing is going to make you happy aside from losing weight, right? The ego convinces you don't want to upset anyone. You don't want to have anyone be, angry with you. So you better keep people pleasing, right? So the ego really puts all the fear of God into us that, we shouldn't change anything because it'd be too scary, too uncomfortable. Nothing else has worked. Why would this? I'm not worthy to succeed and heal, which is false. That's just a story. But the ego feeds you all these reasons, stories, and excuses. And then because the ego is in full-blown control when you're in these kinds of behaviors, and when we have spent most of our lives living out of our power, letting the ego lead us, it's not just so cut and dry one day to go like, oh, there's my ego, I'm not going to listen to it anymore. It's not that cut and dry. Your ego has been running the show for years or decades. It's going to take time to shift it, right? I've been working with a lovely client for the last about 4 months now. And like, I can feel how strong the pull is with her obsession with the scale and weight loss, even though she doesn't really need to lose weight, but that's the conditioning and the repetition of the programming that's been dropped into her subconscious mind. And the beauty of it is she understands that it's going to take time to change, and she's willing to take the time because she's tired of feeling depressed and disappointed and frustrated and so critical of her body and so in her head. So she's taking the time to dismantle the old thoughts and beliefs and patterns and build new ones because she wants to feel free. She wants to feel peace and ease and joy. And so doing this is helping her do so. We're integrating different tools like tapping and mind mapping and, the coaching back and forth in her sessions, and creating custom tools for her to use to help catch her ego and build more awareness. And she's getting more into her self-care routine, and that's helping her, right, shift. And at the same time, she's like, I see how big this is. I see how deep this is. These pathways in my brain are intense. But she's like, little by little, they're starting to change. But she's like, some days there's a strong pull to go back to old behaviors, to keep using the calorie apps, to go and weigh in again. And she's like, I know that's not going to help. So she's like, I'm acknowledging what is, I'm acknowledging the urges, and then I'm going to move forward. So that's the power of this, right? And that's the power of having support, having someone who can really help you point out your ego and build awareness and help you differentiate between the true you and your power and your ego and these old patterns that don't serve you, and starting to build new ones that do, for you to baby step away from the old habits, right? And build the new. And as you do that, these old pathways in the brain, these old habits start to fall away, and they start to feel uncomfortable and almost wrong and unfamiliar. And what starts to feel comfortable and familiar and empowering is catching the triggers, working through them, feeling through your emotions, setting up boundaries that I don't need to weigh in today to feel good. It's about me choosing to feel good because I want to tap into my body and feel good, right? Actually, the calorie app isn't working. What's better is for me to sit and learn how to mindfully eat slowly and stop when I'm full and learn what full feels like and learn what hungry feels like. Go inward, become attuned to my body, my symptoms, what's going on with me. That's the key, right? But as long as we're busy in our old patterns and habits and we're rushing around here and we're all chaotic and we're all stressed out, it's hard to build awareness. It's hard to catch the ego and take our power back. And then it's hard to change the pathways and the habits, right? So the more we repeat a pattern, positive or negative, the more we wire the pathway in the brain. And those do take time to dismantle. Of course, habits that are fueling these pathways that are keeping you stuck. So like I said, the ego is the biggest one. The ego has you convinced you're not good enough, you're insecure, you don't look good enough, that only weight loss is going to make you happy, that you just need to try harder on a diet, that investing in yourself is too scary, that you're not worthy to succeed, all that stuff. So that keeps you stuck. So book a body freedom call so we can connect and talk about what feels like it's holding you back. Because a lot of time it's just the ego, and we can point that out and acknowledge that, and then we can work through that together on the journey. Habits that are fueling these pathways that are keeping you stuck, well, the more you keep mindlessly eating in front of the TV, working while you're eating on the run, not paying attention while you're eating, this is the habit that fuels emotional eating, because when you finish eating, likely you're overfull or you're not satiated. And so then you want to keep snacking and eating because you were not present with food. You are not emotionally satiated and satisfied because you were not focusing on food. And I find like if we're not present, like when I used to mindlessly eat, I'd look at my bowl or my plate and it'd be empty. I'm like, but I want more. I want more. I'm not satisfied. And then I started to realize, wow, it's because I'm not sitting and being present and enjoying it. So of course I want more because I'm not satiated physically or emotionally. So that will fuel overeating and self-sabotage because you want more. Another thing is the lack mentality. So when you are in a lack mentality with food, like, this is the last day I'm going to have this because tomorrow I'm starting my diet. This is the last time I'm going to have this because here's something, know this. If you decide to come and work with me, because I've had clients say this, well, I know I'm coming to work with you. So like, this is the last day I'm going to eat this. It's like, no, this is not the last day you're going to eat this. We're not going to make you cut this out forever, right? We're going to just start working on your emotional eating triggers. And I'm going to help you build more awareness around what's triggering you to go to food. That doesn't mean like you binge it all now because you're not going to be able to have it again. That's your ego. And that's just a story, right? You're going to be able to have the things you want to have. It's just that you'll have it because you want to just enjoy it, and then you'll enjoy it and move on versus using it as a coping mechanism and because you feel triggered, right? But the more mindless eating behaviors you're in, this amplifies self-sabotage with food. Your overbooked schedule, being overwhelmed and in chaotic energy because you feel like if you're not busy, then you're not good enough and your worth is tied up in how much you do. And then you get overwhelmed and you literally have no time for yourself, which is again triggering you to want to mindlessly eat and emotionally eat and self-sabotage. That's a habit we want to look at and work on shifting. We want to address the unworthiness and the worth that you've tied up into how much you do. And we want to slowly work on dismantling that. I've got clients, that I'm always working on that with. And as they build awareness around their ego and start to go, wow, like my ego doesn't want me to stop. My ego doesn't want me to take my vitamins or drink water, or even stop for lunch, let alone self-care. My ego is trying to convince me that I'm a lazy person if I slow down, which is false. And it's just a story. But if you witnessed your mom all through your growing up be really busy and never take time for herself and convince you that taking time for yourself is bad and selfish and wrong and you always need to be doing something or you're not good enough, well, that can be a big part of what fuels our habits and behaviors. So some of it's looking at the way you were brought up. So the overbooked, overwhelmed, overscheduled, because I need to be worthy and I need to be busy to prove to myself I'm worthy. That's a huge part of this. So that's a big pattern that we want to work on, because we can do all the beautiful food and, recipes in the world, and we can get you on the most amazing vitamins. But if you're not willing to, deal with this unworthiness, feeling I need to be so busy because that's the only way I feel worthy, not a lot changes. And that's honest truth. And I bring the honest truth because I want to be real with you, because I want you to be willing to change, because it's going to be a benefit. And it also helps to give you clarity as to maybe why you haven't like experienced the results that you deeply desire either, right? So understanding as well that maybe you're in avoidance mode with wanting to deal with this stuff, right? The self-sabotage with food, the unworthiness, etc., because you have a fear of getting uncomfortable. You have a fear of getting vulnerable with yourself. Maybe you feel a lot of shame and guilt for the behavior you've been in, and you feel just, oh, I don't want anyone to know. But then you're carrying this burden and it's really heavy, and it fuels the self-sabotage as well. You know, in all the client testimonials, I've been doing the interviews, the video testimonials, which you can watch at amberprove.ca on the success story page, and then YouTube. There'll be more coming up. But they've all said, like, don't feel guilty or shame asking for help. Don't feel guilt or shame for wanting to heal this and actually do something about it, right? Don't let the guilt and shame hold you back, because that's all the ego. Again, the ego instills us with guilt and shame, oh, fear of judgment. I'm afraid people are going to judge me if I reach out for help. And then we hold back because we let that emotion lead us rather than acknowledging the emotion and going, I feel that, but I'm going to move forward anyway. I'm going to take steps anyway. I want to heal. I want to be free of this. Obviously the patterns of diets, meal plan, like, you know what I'm talking about, like restrictive eating diets, restrictive eating styles, right? Following these quick fix programs, one month quick fix, 2 month quick fix, right? Lose 30 pounds in a month and all that kind of stuff. Following those kinds of programs, right? Where those kinds of habits are instilled, where you are restricting, you're cutting a bunch of stuff out, you're macro counting, you have to use an app, you're relying on daily weigh-ins, right? And you're really all your focus and awareness is put to external things versus building awareness and learning how to connect with your body. That all keeps you stuck in these patterns. Because like I always talk about, the daily weigh-ins, the apps, the calorie counting, the Jenny Craig, the macros, none of that helps you understand these patterns and why you're stuck. None of it helps you understand your emotional eating or binge eating triggers. None of it helps you to then come up with tools to help you catch and overcome the emotional and binge eating triggers. None of that helps you identify you have an unworthiness imbalance going on. None of it helps you identify your hormone and gut imbalances and why you have the cravings you do. None of it helps you learn to build self-worth and self-love. None of it helps you overcome people-pleasing and set healthy boundaries. None of it helps you build a beautiful self-care routine. They're very superficial, external things that don't come in and actually work with you with your individual unique needs. And that's a big reason why you're stuck, because every time you do a diet, you're wiring pathways in the brain that's like, I have to do this to lose weight. This is how I gain control with food. And the more you do it, the more rules and patterns you create. And then it gets so confusing and you're like, I don't even know what to follow anymore. This is just overwhelming. It makes me tired just thinking about how I used to be with it all. It's exhausting. I get it. I've been there. I was there. So this all keeps us stuck because we're not focusing on the aligned things that are actually going to help us gain body freedom, gain food freedom, be free of our symptoms, and or really minimize our symptoms, right? It's all external. Nothing external can fill your internal void and truly make you happy. You've got to want to go inside and do it. And of course, get support if it's resonant. If there's someone you've been thinking about reaching out to, reach out to them, have a conversation, whether it's me or someone else. It's you getting the support, the aligned support that you feel connected to. It's a life game changer, people. Like, I really encourage you to explore it. One of the best ways we can get unstuck is by investing in support. Because we're ideally working with someone that has the brain and the understanding and the awareness, the knowledge, the experience to help us overcome the things we're struggling with. And bonus if they have gone through it too and overcome it, because they really get it. So understand that that's a big pathway we want to dismantle, is the diet mentality, the food rule mentality, the weigh-in mentality, right? All these quick fix diets, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, all that kind of stuff. Another like habit pathway is really around guilt, around making yourself a priority, whether it's mom guilt, you feel bad, like, because you should be giving the time to your kids, business guilt, you feel bad because you should be giving this time to your business, your customers, your clients, your job, right? Maybe you feel guilty, like you don't want to take time away from your spouse, even though they probably really support you to do so. But there's a guilt around making yourself a priority. So you keep letting the guilt get in the way of you making yourself a priority. And you'd rather go do the laundry or the dishes or tidy up or just turn the TV on and check out. You'd rather commit to everyone else but yourself. So there can be a component of people pleasing with this as well. So as long as we stay in letting guilt make the decision, not a lot changes. And then we get overwhelmed and then we emotionally eat to numb out, to suppress, to get that dopamine high, because it's the only quick fix. It's like, oh God, I'm so stressed. I just need a moment. I'm going to go eat that. When we get into that mentality, what we need to understand is that is just a quick fix dopamine moment. And working through the guilt and releasing the guilt and not feeling bad for making yourself a priority is so freeing and liberating. And then you fall in love with your self-care routines and practices. Like all of my clients, as they get into it, they're like, oh my gosh, I've been missing this my whole life. This is incredible. Can you relate to that? Right? And then they start doing stuff in the membership and we start doing different self-care practices in their sessions and they build their beautiful practices in their day, wherever they fit them in. And they're just like, I love my self-care. Nothing's getting in the way. I look forward to it. It's so beneficial. I feel so calm, so more in my power. It helped me catch a trigger and I didn't emotionally eat. Like it builds confidence. This is what we want. We want to build confidence and this helps us with that. So part of the work we can do is to work on dismantling the guilt and the feeling bad for making yourself a priority. You get to look at your schedule and build your self-care rituals and routines into your schedule that works for you, right? We get to do it in a way that is really complementing your lifestyle and is very individual to what you need. And I had someone DM me the other day on Instagram. They're like, I'm looking for someone that has a program that's very catered to my needs. And I said, yeah, 100%. It's very specific and individualized to your needs. I don't do cookie cutter. Cookie cutter doesn't work. And each person has a individual, unique set of circumstances that need support, right? So it's all made just for you, right? So there's a lot of habits and pathways, as you're hearing me talk about this, that can keep us stuck. Cravings, low energy, brain fog, trigger us into the I don't care mentality. And then we're letting that trigger us to eat whatever we want. And then we get the guilt comes up and then you're like, well, F it, I've already eaten that today. What's the point? I'm just going to keep going, right? So all of that can fuel that. And then your hormone imbalances and gut imbalances can be fueling your cravings that then fuel the low energy and the brain fog that fuel the F it mentality. So then we see where the physical imbalances start to come in. Right? Maybe you're in a habit of procrastination. Oh yeah, I'll deal with that once life slows down. And once this happens, I'll do that. But life continues to happen. Yeah, I get sometimes the circumstance isn't right. Maybe you want to save up money, right? And it's a financial thing, or maybe like, you have a big move or something coming. You're like, once I get settled, then I'm going to do it. It doesn't make sense. Right. But then on the other hand, like I've had clients who sign up and then they're like, I'm so glad I did this because this support really helped me through a really hectic, crazy, busy time or a really, a state of uncertainty that I went through. And I feel like if I didn't have the support, I would have just gone so much deeper into the self-sabotaging behaviors, right? I'm all for divine timing, but stop procrastinating if you know you're the only thing in the way of your healing, your freedom, your happiness, your worthiness, your growth, right? Your miraculous healing that you get to create. Like if you're the only thing in the way and it's you and your head and your ego, lovingly get yourself out of the way. Stop procrastinating and delaying your greatest good. Ladies and gentlemen, you deserve the healing. You deserve the freedom. You deserve to have the peace of mind. Don't delay because you're afraid or because you're like, once life looks perfect, then I'll do it. It's never going to look perfect. Yes, again, like I said, there might be certain circumstances, totally understandable. But if it's just procrastination, if it's just resistance, if there's just some fear of failure coming up, let's talk about that in the consultation. I talk about that with the women that come forth all the time. It's just a thought. It's just an emotion. Are you going to continue to let this thought or emotion hold you back and keep you in these habits and patterns and keep you stuck? Don't do it. Really encourage you to acknowledge it and move forward anyway. But we really get in our head, and it's really these mindsets, these thoughts, these beliefs in our head that then dictate the way we behave and show up or don't show up, that then keep us stuck. Like I said, the ego is the biggest piece. And if we're not properly educated and we don't have any awareness around why we emotionally eat, why we binge, what our triggers are, what makes them come up, that there's little triggers that can show up with bigger triggers, right? That physical symptoms can fuel triggers, and emotional fuels physical, and energetic imbalances can fuel all of this. And like, when we lack awareness, it's just so easy to keep in these habits and patterns because we just don't know what we don't know. And that's not your fault. I don't know how to fix my laptop. It's not my fault, but I'm going to invest in getting the support from the professional who can fix it for me, because I'm not about to sit here and figure that out, right? There's just certain things where, yeah, you can go on Google and like Google how to update your iTunes, right? Easier things. But when it comes to things that are very complex and very layered and have many intricate details to assess, like really getting support is one of the best things I can encourage, even if you start with something small, to get familiar with the person and then you go into something bigger, right? That's why I have like everything from the range of $22 to multi-thousands, depending on what you feel called into. That's the online programs page where you can check out all those smaller little investments in self-study programs, as well as the one-on-one, right? So let's talk about opening up to the longer term commitment, because, women say to me like, I'm good. Like I'll get going for like a month or two and then I crash and burn. It's like, I did good with my workout plan and my eating and I lost some weight, or my energy started to get a bit better. And then I got really stressed, or I failed at a goal. I didn't reach my weight loss goal. Some life stress came up, whatever it was, but then it triggered me. And then I started picking away at the foods. And then the next thing you know, I'm emotionally eating, and then I'm binging and I'm losing control again. And then I gain the weight back, and the failure and the shame and the guilt and the embarrassment just come back tenfold. Like, do you relate to that? Does that resonate? Are you there right now? How does it feel? I'm so sorry if you're going through that. I know it doesn't feel good. I'm sending you love. And it continues to show up not to punish you, but because it really wants to get your attention to go, hey, are you willing to really look at this time? Are you really willing to deal with this time so we can overcome it and you can gain full freedom? That's why it's happening. Truly. Because your higher self and your soul want you to be free of it. And I know deep down you want yourself to be free of it too. So this is why I'm always talking about like, be willing and open to see that if these patterns and habits have been ingrained within you for years and decades, a 1 week, 2 week, 1 month, 2 month thing is not going to help you come full circle and fully be free of it and heal. Yeah, look at my one client. In a month, she's gained so much traction, but now she's going into another 4 months. So it's going to be 5 months, and who knows what will happen beyond that. And prior to coming to work with me one-on-one, she bought all my master classes and she was like studying them religiously, starting to learn, building awareness. Like, she's freaking committed to her journey and she's experiencing the change because of it. She's showing up, right? And I celebrate her for that. So part of it is understanding though, and remembering, if you've had years and decades of patterning and programming and habits and pathways in your brain and subconscious conditioning, right? To think a certain way, that you need to look a certain way, you have certain beliefs, behaviors, right? The people pleasing, the all or nothing mentality, the negative self-talk that I'm not worthy. I need to use food as a coping mechanism. I'm afraid to feel my emotions. I don't like the way I look. I have to, lose weight to look a certain way and then be happy. Like whatever your stories are going on in your brain, it's so important for you to remind yourself that it's going to take time to shift. Yes, you can start gaining traction and lessening the binges and emotional eating in a matter of weeks. You can start improving your energy levels and reduce your bloating in days and weeks. Those things can start to shift quickly. However, the journey has its ups and downs. And when we really stick to it, we really come out the other end in full release of the old habits and pathways that no longer serve us, gain full freedom of the food addiction, the emotional eating, the binging, right? You tune up your digestion. It's the best it's ever been, right? You actually take the time it takes to balance your hormones properly and your energy levels regulate, your mood and mental clarity improve, your sleep improves. And then the protection starts to come off. I have a client that I've been working with for about 7 months now. And it's been in the past month. She's like, my clothes are fitting looser. And she's like, I think I've actually lost like 10 pounds. And it's like, that's amazing. And she's like, I get it now. I get that it's not about weight loss, but it's like, she's like, as I'm focusing on helping my body feel safer, as I'm, nourishing my body more, and I'm really like putting in the work to catch my emotional eating triggers and like falling in love with my self-care routine and like we've been connecting with her inner child and doing different emotional work, like her body's starting to feel safe. She didn't have to diet or do any crazy exercise to let it go, right? She's doing what feels good for her. And she's like, this feels so good to not focus on it, to focus on the healing and making amends with my body, us forgiving each other and us working together. Like that's what this is all about. Right? So are you willing to open up to the longer term commitment? Are you willing to have a conversation about that? Are you willing to consider that if you really take the time on whatever path you see fit, that then you build a solid foundation for life. You are free of these behaviors for life, truly. I don't ever think about binging. I don't think about emotionally eating. I love food. I enjoy my food. Like when we have the gnocchi this weekend, the gnocchi, and we have the carrot cake, like I'm going to thoroughly enjoy it. I look forward to it. So I will make it and put so much love into it. And then we're going to sit down and I eat it so slowly and so mindfully and I savor it. And then I will be complete with the experience. And there will be leftovers and I can have more if I want it. And then I move on. There's no guilt. There's no worry. There's no judgment. There's no, oh my God, I better eat the rest of this because I don't know when I'll make this again. And like tomorrow I got to get back on the diet. All that's gone. And that's what you get to look forward to. Seriously. Go read the testimonials on the website. Watch the success stories. These women have done this too. This is not just me. This is like 1,600 women, right? So many have made these changes because they're realized the quick fixes aren't working. You know, the guilt and the insecurity and the procrastination and beating around the bush and avoiding doing my deeper work is keeping me stuck. The people pleasing and the all or nothing is keeping me stuck. The continuing to diet and use the app is keeping me stuck. Being obsessed with my weight is keeping me stuck and keeping me very unhappy and holding me back from living my life. I don't want that anymore. So they come to me and we start on this journey and then they start to build this solid foundation. They build awareness. They learn about their ego. They learn how to take their power back from it. We work specifically on identifying your emotional eating and binge eating triggers and help you catch them and undo the pattern of, oh, something happened. Now it's time to go and suppress with food. It's like, oh, what's happening now? Oh, this is what I'm feeling. Now I know what I'm feeling. I know what I can give myself instead. Wow, I'm not emotionally eating as much. Confidence boost. Wow, I'm starting to like my body. I'm starting to appreciate her. Confidence boost. Wow, I have more energy. Wow, my bloating's way down. Wait, my rings are fitting better. My clothes are fitting looser. Oh my gosh, I think my body's releasing protection. Wow, I set a healthy boundary and said no. Holy crap, it felt amazing. Woo! Right? Yes. You start manifesting things you want, right? My clients are like getting raises and promotions and growing businesses. Their relationships are improving with their spouses, their kids. They're attracting the romantic relationships if they didn't already have them. Positive things are coming into their lives because they're becoming an energetic match for manifesting what they want because their vibration is going up. This is what you get to look forward to. And one of the biggest gifts is you learn how to listen to your body. You connect with your body physically, emotionally, and energetically. And then you know what to give your body for food, for sleep, for vitamins, right? If certain symptoms come up, you know what to give her. If certain emotions come up, you know what to give her. And then you have that for life. And that is priceless. That is what I want for you. I want you to get what you need and spend the time that you desire to be with me. And then you get to go and fly and have it forever. That's the goal. That's the goal. Not lifetime customer like these Jenny Craigs and all this. We want you to get what you need and learn it in the time that is aligned for you. And then you're good to go. This is for life. You have this for life. And it might be like, well, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, it's a long commitment. Well, think of the years you have ahead of you and think of the quality of life that you want to have in those years ahead of you. This is a small amount of time compared to the quality of life you're going to have moving forward. Truly. It goes by really fast. So I want to sit and visualize for a moment. So obviously if you're driving, don't do this. Wait until you're not walking, driving, or biking or whatever you're doing. But I just want to take a visualization moment. So close your eyes, take a deep breath. And I want you to take a moment. And I want you to envision what it would feel like if food was rarely on your mind, if instead you just felt more peace, calm, ease, think of what it would feel like for you if you could sit and eat mindfully and know what it feels like to be full and stop and put the rest away. Know you can always have leftovers. Know you can always come back to it, but that you can actually be mindful with your dinner, with your dessert. You can enjoy a mindful amount and then you can just stop and move on. No guilt, no upset, no worry, no triggering of binges. I want you to think of what it would feel like to have your bloating settle and your stomach to be calm. I want you to think of what it would feel like to have more energy, mental clarity, better sex drive, better mood. I want you to think of what it would feel like to have your mind just be more calm, the chatter be more calm, and rather than all the nudging and you need to do this and you need to think this and you're not good enough. Instead, it's just more calm and you know how to quiet it if it gets loud. And instead of all the chatter, there's more positive encouragement. You're more encouraging of yourself. You feel confident. You learn how to like and even love yourself and your body. You feel happier. Think of what it would feel like to learn how to listen to your body, know what triggers the symptom, and then you give yourself whatever you need and it helps soothe it and take it away. It feels so good. Think of what it would feel like to feel worthy, to see success expand in every area of your life because now you're healing you. Think of how your relationships would improve. How would it feel in your relationships if you felt more confident and more worthy? Think of how it would feel to not people please and say no when it's really a no, and yes only when it's a yes. And to not worry if you say no, to just be like, yep, no, sorry, I can't make it. Moving on. It's freeing. And think of what it would feel like to never have to diet again, to not rely on an app, to not have to do the daily, weekly wins, and to actually see the progress you want without those things. Weaning off of them, of course, at a pace that feels good for you. To be friends with your body, to be friends with food, to no longer see them as the enemy. How does that feel? Because this is your opportunity. You get to step into this. This is what happens when we are willing to commit to the longer term, to take our time on our journey. Spend some more time visualizing this if you have the time. Otherwise, you can come back and listen again anytime. So if you're feeling amplified by this, you're going, oh my gosh, this is totally what I wanted. This is totally what I needed to hear. I really encourage you to come forth, go to amberapproved.ca, book a 30-minute body freedom call. Let's connect and talk about what the journey could look like together. Okay. If you have questions, you can email me. But I really encourage you to consider what's possible and how your quality of life could significantly improve by you addressing the patterns and habits and having support each step of the way to make it easier. So I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. The show notes can be found at amberapproved.ca/podcast/407. As I was saying earlier, you can go to amberapproved.ca to book your 30-minute body freedom call. You can also go there to take the free emotional eating quiz if you're wondering if you're struggling. All the online programs are there. You can learn more about what body freedom is and so much more. And of course, for those of you watching YouTube, all those details are down below in the description. As I always say, there's no better time than the present to take action on your health, your healing, dismantling these habits, and building a new foundation. So be willing to take action now. Have a beautiful day, a great week. And I will look forward to sharing a whole new episode with all of you beautiful souls next Sunday. Take care. Sending you a lot of love.